Welcome to the free audiobook version of The Everyday Pain Guide, your go-to guide when pain first strikes. Hi, I'm Dr. Ya-Ling Liu, and the podcast is taking a little detour to make my new book available in an audio-friendly version for everyone out there. Each episode will feature a bite-sized snippet from the book, and together we'll work our way through as much of it as is possible in this format. What's exciting about this is that I'm reading parts of the book to you before it's even available on the shelves. Plus, unlike with a traditional audiobook, you can engage with the content and chat with me about what you hear. You get to ask questions and tell me what you think as each episode rolls out. So sit back and relax as I bring you today's installment of the second book in the Everyday Pain Guide series, Fix the Fire Damage. Today, we're continuing with the section on how to release your food sensitivities. In the last episode, we covered dairy, wheat, and caffeine. And today, we'll dive into the next four, starting with foods that contain something called amines, spelled A-M-I-N-E-S. The information, techniques, and suggestions discussed here are not intended as a substitute for your own medical care. Always consult a healthcare provider before implementing any advice referenced here. Release your food sensitivities continued. Amines. What are amines? Sometimes referred to as vasoactive amines or biogenic amines, these are organic compounds naturally found in many whole foods and also in processed foods. One very familiar amine is histamine. Over-the-counter antihistamine products are very commonly used to combat symptoms of allergies that histamines have become associated with. The whole family of vasoactive amines in foods can cause similar symptoms. Anyone can react to these chemicals in high concentrations, but some people are more sensitive than others because of a sneaky genetic quirk, resulting in a missing enzyme. The missing enzyme is diamine oxidase, or DAO. And without it, breaking down amines for elimination is not possible. The result is a whole host of symptoms like face flushing, skin irritation, runny or stuffy nose, and abdominal pain, just to name a few. Examples of foods high in amines include strawberries, bananas, tomatoes, eggplant, and spinach. Fermented and pickled foods, vinegars, cured meats, and cheeses also contain significant levels of amines. Can you see the overlap here with some of the big three? This is why inflammation-triggering foods can be so confusing to troubleshoot. As you'll see in the next action phase, where you learn how to retrain your body machine, the long-term solution lies with helping your body increase its tolerance rather than endlessly limiting your food options. Your body can become less sensitive over time and with the right strategy. Soy. This is a food that is often fermented, as with soy sauce and miso, which then also falls into the vasoactive amine category. And so, if you have a sensitivity to amines, your reaction to soy may not be about the soy itself. To complicate matters, soy sauce, for example, also contains wheat gluten, which makes this another example of a food with multiple possible inflammatory triggers. A legitimate allergy-based immune reaction to soy protein does exist, but usually it takes much greater amounts of soy exposure for an allergy or sensitivity to be triggered than with other allergenic foods. In recent years, soy protein started showing up as an ingredient in an increasing variety of processed foods, which easily increases exposure and possible sensitization. As you saw in the Body Chemistry Repair Guide, it's by unintentionally crossing our intestinal barrier that proteins like these can trigger reactions once in our bloodstream. If you're considering a trial elimination of soy, read labels carefully because soy can be in unlikely places, like vitamins and supplements, even. If you suspect difficulty digesting soy, you might also try sprouted soy products. Sprouting stimulates the release of enzymes by the soybean that will pre-digest starchy parts of the bean for you. Yeast. This is technically part of the fungus family, and so people with yeast intolerance tend to also be sensitive to other fungi like mold. Everyone's body has some level of resident yeast that is just part of the natural flora. The most common kind is called Candida albicans and can be found in the intestines and, by extension, in the mouth, as well as on the skin and genitals. Some people have a higher than average population of resident yeasts, which is considered to be a sign of a weakened or taxed immune system, or the result of taking certain medications, but is not necessarily linked to yeast intolerance. As with any of the other sneaky three triggers, reactions to yeast in food can occur via a primary immune reaction, the IgE mediated, resulting in hives or respiratory issues, and can also occur with a milder reaction, non-IgE mediated, which appears in the gut first and manifests primarily as intestinal discomfort. Foods that contain yeasts or molds include, but are not limited to, the following: fermented drinks like beer, malt liquor, hard ciders or kombucha, leavened baked goods, berries, grapes, and blue cheese. If you've resumed eating simple carbohydrates after completing your exploration of the big three release phase, and you think you might be sensitive to yeasts, you'll appreciate knowing that some yeast-free options include most crackers, some thin crust pizzas, and some flatbreads. Sulfites. These are compounds used as additives to keep food from turning brown so that it continues to look appealing to eat. Because of a sharp increase in the use of sulfites by the food industry in the 1970s, paired with sudden widespread severe reactions to sulfites, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, banned the use of sulfites in fresh fruits and vegetables in the summer of 1986. Sulfites do still get added to potatoes, shrimp, beer, wine, and many pharmaceutical medications, for example, Procaine, better known as Novocaine. Usually, sulfite sensitivity affects people who already have asthma, although it can cause breathing problems like wheezing or a full-blown asthma attack. It is not a true allergy technically, and therefore anaphylaxis is not generally a concern here. Symptoms can also include hives, runny nose, and flushing. If you suspect you might have a sulfite sensitivity, you can look for these terms on your ingredient labels: sulfur dioxide, potassium bisulfite, potassium metabisulfite, sodium bisulfite, sodium metabisulfite, and sodium sulfite. Other foods where you might encounter sulfites include dried fruits, molasses, sauerkraut, bottled lemon and lime juices, fresh mushrooms, and processed foods. Any food that might naturally turn brown over time may be treated with a sulfite to stay fresh looking on the shelf. And that completes another part of the first phase of the Body Chemistry Action Plan, Release, from Volume 2 of the Everyday Pain Guide series, Fix the Fire Damage. Today's question: these 4 possible food sensitivities discussed in today's episode, amines, soy, yeasts, and sulfites, are not all as widely known as some others like dairy and gluten. So after hearing this episode, do you think you might struggle with any of these 4? Let me know your thoughts over at my Substack publication, Better Pain Coping, where you can chat with me about this or any other episode. You're also welcome to just lurk You'll find a lot of extra content, including my own thoughts that didn't make it into the book and all the research references that informed my writing for this chapter. Check the links in today's show notes to see how you can join the conversation over there. In the next episode, we'll be rounding out our look at how to release food sensitivities by covering the final two, salicylates and FODMAPs. And don't worry, I won't make you memorize what FODMAPs stands for. See you then. This episode was an excerpt from The Everyday Pain Guide, your go-to guide when pain first strikes. Written and narrated by me, Dr. Ya-Ling Liu, with audio editing and production provided by Organized Sound Productions. Do you have questions or comments about today's episode? You can shoot me an email anytime at hello@stopeverydaypain.com. That's HELLO@stopeverydaypain.com. If you have friends or family members who you know are struggling with persistent, recurring aches and pains, tell them to check out the podcast while they're waiting for the book. To help me get this information to as many people who need it as possible, please consider leaving an honest review, but I'd also be super grateful for a simple like, follow, or share. Thank you for helping me put a stop to everyday pain.